fact-finding mission. As you will recall, on the 25th of January at its Congress, the Council set up a 5-man committee to investigate the financial activities of the immediate past executive of Council. That committee was made up of my humble self, Tony Akowe, as the chairman, Ndubueze Chidoka as the secretary, and we have as members Akin Orimolade, Princess Ekwi Ejide, and Imam Umar. As part of his activity, as his assignment, the committee held a series of meetings in order to chart the way forward for the committee. We needed materials to work with, we needed information, and we set out to get those information. Unfortunately, the immediate past executive, led by Patrick Osadebawen, refused or failed to hand over council affairs, refused to hand over both secretariat and the financial records of council to the council. So we did not have any record of that executive to work with. However, we were able to get the audited financial report. This document is the audited financial report of the executive of the Emmanuel Ogbeche-led ESCO in their first term, that is from 2018 to 2021. That is the only document that we had. Incidentally, is a report from external auditors. So it's an audited record which had their own signatories to it. So they signed the report. So we assume that since their signatories is on the document, as having accepted it and presented it at Congress then, that they admitted that it's an authentic document. This is their signatures on this audited financial record. So it's the only document from the ESCO from 2018 to 2024 that we had to work with. Now, as part of also, we had to also write letters out to them. We wrote letters to the following people to come with information, to come and answer records. Letters were written to the following people to come either by writing or appearing in person to provide us with information. Emmanuel Ogbeche, being the former chairman of council from 2018 until he was given an appointment as SA Media to the Cross River State Governor, we wrote him a letter. The letter to him was delivered to his office by the secretary, and it was signed and received on his behalf. Letter was also sent to Patrick Osadebawen. The letter was delivered to his office also by the secretary personally. It was also signed and received on his behalf. Ochiaka Ugu, the immediate past former council secretary, we also wrote him. He collected his letter personally, but refused to sign for the letter. He said he wanted to study the letter first. His Gloria Essien, the letter was signed on her behalf in our office at Voice of Nigeria. Dorcas Jonas. Dorcas served as financial secretary of council from 2018 to 2021. The letter was also delivered to her at the News Agency of Nigeria, as well as Chidebere Benjamin, the MD of Canopy Global Investment. Canopy Global are the ones occupying the NUJ White House building. Letters were written to all of them. They were all received. Aside delivering these letters to them, the letters were also sent to their WhatsApp lines. But they failed, they refused to show up, they refused to make any representation to the committee. Therefore, the committee had to make do with the information it had. which is the information contained in this document. And it is important to state that it was only Otis that showed up. That is the Chidebere Benjamin. He was the only one who showed up. Even though he was not in town when the letters were delivered, when he came back, he reached out to the secretary. He also reached out to my humble self that he was around now and he was ready to come, and he came and we engaged him and we had a fruitful discussion with him. And from our interaction, comparing our interaction with him with records in the audit report, we found some conflicting information. Now, from correspondence from the council to him, he had offered to pay for that hall, for that building, to pay 24.5 million for that building. And he offered to pay in 2 installments, 14 million and then 10.5 million in 6 months later. But the then ESCO told him, they wrote him a letter that they will only accept a one-off payment. And they gave him 7 days within which to make a one-off payment. He obliged and he went to the bank personally, because we had to ask him, did you send anybody? He went to the bank personally and made a lodgement of 24.5 million into the NUJ account. However, we did ask him whether there was any money paid back to him by the NUJ, and he acknowledged the fact that the NUJ gave him 8.3 million naira for renovation. Now, in this document, there is no 24 million naira in this document. This 24 million naira was paid in 2020. So it should have formed part of this record. But on this record, what we found in this record was 14 million paid into the NUJ in this record as rent received in advance. That is what this record tags it, rent received in advance, 14 million. We scanned through the entire documents to find out where the remaining 10.5 million is. We could not place our hand on where that balance of 10.5 million naira is, because they did not show up to explain where that money went to. Now, this money was meant for the rent of that property for 7 years. One other curious thing that we found out was the fact that the rent and total rent for that period from both the Otis and other tenants were lumped together as 33 million naira as rent. Who paid what? What did they pay? Is not documented in any part of this audit record. And knowing how audit records should go, we are compared to believe that there may have been some little compromises, because anybody who does not have any accounting record may not be able to understand the details of this thing. Finances, income, and expenditure were all lumped together. Who paid what? Where were this money paid to? And also curiously, no receipt was issued. There are no record of receipt issued, even to the tune of either the 14 million in this record or 24.5 million paid. There was no receipt to that effect. Like I said, for all the tenants, the rent that was supposed to have been collected was supposed to be 33 million, but we don't know, and there is no record anywhere to show what any of the tenants paid, which of the tenant paid, which of the tenant did not pay. And please, for your information, we are talking about the first tenure of the executive. We did not have any record to deal with the second tenure of the ESCO. So whatever revenue they generated, either from rent or whatever source, we could not place our hand on it, because there were no records, and there were no bank records, because the executive even refused and had even issued warnings to the bank not to attend to the ESCO. So there were no records from that. also looked at the record, this record. We found out that they said for the 3 years that staff remuneration, that is in terms of salary, was about 5.2 million naira as salaries to the staff for 3 years. And this was at a time when the highest paid staff of the NUJ was earning 25,000 naira. So, if you have 5 staff, assuming we have 5 staff at that time, and you pay each of them, all of them 25,000 across board, for 3 years they would have earned 4.5 million. But on our record, audited record, is that the staff were paid 5.2 million. So it is left for you to decipher where the balance should be. If the staff collected 5.2, and yet we have no record of how much they were actually paid. There are other discrepancies in the audited accounts which did not tally. For example, allowances, transport allowances were paid, accommodation were paid. For who? Who collected, who benefited from these allowances, for this transport allowance, to where, for what purpose? We admit that there are times where you send out officials go out on assignment, but which assignment did you go for, and what were these monies paid for? Monies meant also for secretariat. Nothing was itemized. You cannot place your hand on where these monies came from, and where actually these monies went for. There were no vouchers presented for you to be able to determine, yes, these monies were actually spent. So, we also discovered that this audited record also showed us 2 different account balance. It said in a UBA account that the union, as at 2021, 30th October 2021, the union had in naira 6 million naira. And in a dollar account, you can see here, dollar account. It's written here, $148,000. But curiously, when adding up these figures, the dollar component and the naira component were added together and to arrive at a total of 1,148,000. So if you had a dollar account that had 148,000 dollars in it, you report that separately from the naira account. But the total money were lumped together, and the total given as 6,148,000 naira. 148,000 naira. So we are curious to know why would you lump dollar account when the exchange rate was not the same. It's not the same. It's not 1 naira to the dollar, and you lumping them together at 6,148,000. So these are the findings. These are what we discovered, and the fact that we could not place our hand on, going back to the OTs, 10 million was not accounted for out of the 24 million, 24.5 million that were paid into the union account. 10.5 million could not be accounted for in this record. And since that money was paid within this tenure, within the first tenure, we expected that the audited account should have taken care of that 10.5 million, but the whereabouts of that money is not known. So in view of prevailing circumstance, we are also curious to find out that a property of this nature was leased out for 7 years at 3.5 million naira per annum in a location in Jabi, in Utako, that is in the heart of the city. So we're curious that such a property could be leased out up to 2027. So it means that up to 2027, you only collect 3.5 million naira for that property. So we have made our recommendations, and one of the recommendations we have made is the fact that since we were not able to get these people to come and hand over, and before I forget, we also had personal interaction with some members of that ESCO. And in one of my interactions with the former chairman, he told me in our WhatsApp chat that the record we are looking for is with the National Secretariat. And we contacted the National Secretariat, and the National Secretary told us in point blank that the Patrick ESCO never handed any document over to them. So which means there was a deceit. There was a deceit, and ab initio, they had no plan to hand over any document. So we have made our recommendation, and one of it is the fact that since we could not get there our own, and we have tried to engage them, we have tried to dialogue with them, and they have refused, we should contact the anti-graft agencies and the security agencies to help us recover our documents from them, and possibly our money from them. The FCC, the ICPC, the DSS, and maybe the anti-fraud units of the Nigerian police. We have said the ESCO should write to them, attach all relevant documents, and so that they will help us track these things. Also, this invitation of the anti-graft agencies, we believe, will help us unravel the whereabouts of the 10.5 million from the first tenure, and probably other monies that must have come in during the second tenure that we are not able to trace. Also, that the rent on this property, we believe that there is the need to renegotiate the lease agreement on that property. But before that renegotiation, we believe that the council should engage qualified estate valuers to help us value the property so that we know what we are dealing with. So that we will not just be shooting ourselves on the leg. After that, we can go into renegotiating it. Also, the Congress should mandate the past executive, alongside Ogbeche, who is the SA media, to the governor of Cross River State, to hand off the union accounts, all the union accounts, both the dollar account and the naira account, because it was discovered that they were still signatories to that account even after they had left office. They remain signatories. They've not informed the banks to say we are no longer signatories to this account. So they should be informed to hands off those accounts and other areas that they are still claiming to be leaders of the union when they are not. And following the refusal of the former financial secretary, who should keep records of our finances, to come and render accounts, we kept these things in as a trust for them to come and render account. She should stop representing the union at whatever level that she is representing the union, especially at the FCT Council of the Nigerian Labour Congress. And pending the outcome of investigations by the anti-graft agencies, we believe that we recommend that their honors role be stepped down for now. The honors role means the display of their photographs as leaders of council is stepped down for now, pending the outcome of investigations by the anti-graft agencies. Thank you very much for attending.
24. We made frantic efforts for the former council officials to hand over, and as a matter of procedure, we wrote a letter to the National Secretariat of the Nigerian Union of Journalists, who is the parent body of the council, to notify them that the former executive have refused to hand over the documents as well as the accounts of the council to us. In the process, the National Secretariat wrote a letter to the UBA notifying them of the need for the change of signature. This letter is dated March 12, 2025, and is addressed to the branch manager, United Bank for introduction of the new executive of the NUJ FCT and the request for the change of signatory. Our names are in this letter introducing us. And it is quite unfortunate that despite the efforts and the intervention by the National Secretariat on this matter, the UBA, United Bank for Africa, has blatantly refused to honor this letter coming from our national body of the union. And to that effect, on our own from the council, wrote another letter dated 11th of April, referencing the same letter and the need for the bank to effect the change of the signatures. And up to this moment, the bank has refused to honor all these documents. At the last Congress of the Council, which was held at the April 12, 2025, the Congress in session resolved and agreed on the following. The Nigerian Union of Journalists FCT Council, at the end of its April 12, 2025 Congress, unanimously resolved that the following people should stop the impersonation of the current executive of the NUJ FCT Council forthwith, and as a matter of urgency and necessity, should hands off the signatures of the council to UBA bank account Naira account number 1022765326 and Naira account 10140575659 with the account name Nigerian Union of Journalists, and as well as dollar account number 300-294-1904. Immediately, they are as follows: Mr. Emmanuel Ogbeche, the Special Advisor to the Governor of Cross River State, Abuja, and Mr. Patch, an editor, Abuja Enquirer newspaper. He's also the editor of Abuja Enquirer newspaper. Then Mr. Patrick Osadebanwe, the immediate past chairman of the council, who is also a staff of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. And Mr. Uchiaka Ugu, the former secretary of the council, who is also a staff of the People's Daily newspaper. The Congress in session also resolved that NUJ City Council does not recognize Mrs. Gloria Essien of the Voice of Nigeria as its representative ex officio at the Nigerian Labour Congress, FCT Council, and should stop the impersonation forthwith. The Congress also resolved that the Nigerian government, Federal Capital Territory Authority, corporate bodies, individuals, diplomatic communities, general public, should not transact any business with this fellow forthwith, and that anybody that do any business with them in the name of the Nigerian Union of Journalists, FCT Council, do so at his or her own risk, as they are no longer the officials of the union and cannot represent the council in any capacity. The Congress also resolved that the United Bank for Africa, UBA, and other banks where they open accounts of the council should not in any way conspire or connive with this fellow, as the council is doing everything possible to get to the root of the infractions and misdemeanor of the past executive of the council. Number 5, the Congress also resolved that the council should do a disclaimer in the media over the acts committed by this former executive the general public are not falling victim of their ignoble acts. Resolution number 6, that the council should formally write to their employers and bring to the notice the report of the committee that indicted them and the resolution of the Congress. Number 7, which is the last. The Congress on April 12, 2025 resolved that a press conference should be held and addressed over this matter, which we are doing today. This is the Secretariat's report coming from the Nigerian Union of Journalists, FCT Council, as an addendum to the report of the committee. Thank you very much.